It's like soundproof. Oh, it's like you can't hear anything. Oh, it's all these. You're just in a pod.
It's cookie cutter, gross, utilitarian stuff, and people that build stuff like that should be thrown in jail. All right, we're doing a little special episode today. We got Ryan, my right hand, the man himself, author.
Hey, nice.
You wrote a book recently?
Well, I'm working on one.
VMI alumni.
VMI
Man of the law. Charleston
law.
Law School grad.
Oof.
Key operator to Heartland LLC and what we're doing.
Thanks, man.
Welcome to the show, dude.
Hey, thanks, brother.
Even though you're on the show regularly,
I work here.
He's the man behind the camera.
I thought I would put a face to the voice.
Today we'd put a face to the voice. So,
yeah.
Ryan, let's. What are we drinking today? We're going with the Blanton. Let's go with the Blantons today. Let's go with the
like
Blantons.
the horse. Yeah, let's do that.
Fix yourself some Blantons.
Do a nice heavy pour. It's not noon yet.
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. You know.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Jimmy Buffett.
R.I.P. Jimmy Buffett. He was a good man. Just put that back on the. Do you need a Zendad to go with that?
I may in a minute. I only got one lozenge left.
Yeah, I'll throw one in after a couple
Those
sips.
sixes are harsh.
Yeah,
I'll take
they're
it.
tough. So I thought we'd start. We really want to introduce the brand and what we're doing and you to people because regularly you're behind.
I'm just the
he's
disembodied
the Jamie.
voice.
He's a mixture of Jamie from Joe Rogan and the black chick on Howard Stern. He is our right hand operator, Mr. Producer over here. So Ryan, we met. Gosh, how long ago was it?
We met at the Jasper.
We met at the Jasper, but was that over 2 years ago now?
Yes. It was summer 2022, right? Yeah, it was up at the. No, not summer. I guess it was more spring.
No, it would have been a little bit. Yeah,
I
was there a little bit before that. I got in the Jasper
because
right
it opened
when it
in
opened.
January.
Yeah, well, I got in there February, right when it opened, and 2021, February 2021, and it was one of the first 15 people in there. It was awesome.
Oh wow,
it was chaos. Vacant. Oh my god,
that's a big building.
Debauchery
just have 15 people.
Chaos. Yeah, I met you. You were working on an unnamed man's campaign at the time.
Unnamed man,
and there was some chaos going on. It was very interesting, and I was drawn to you because you were you're an intellectual. You're a writer. You're well read. You're a Renaissance man that understands geopolitics and culture, and religion. We bond for our Catholicism together, and you're coming into the faith.
No, I do remember that. Yeah, I remember we were over there in the meeting room. Yeah, we were just shooting the shit.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
So, how did you start your book? You were still in law school at the time, but did you start your book around that time, or?
Yeah. I'm still working on it. Still trying to.
You're trying to polish it up because you had the first. What was
like
the
a first edition?
What was the name of the book initially?
Well, we're working on it.
It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress. It's something that you're
revising from the first publication.
Yes, I'm still trying to send it to some agents and
stuff.
You
wrote a novel while you were in law school, though.
Yeah, because I wasn't really going to law school, shall we say?
You were in law school.
I wasn't putting the time in. I graduated.
You're just unbarred.
It just goes to show the state of the legal education system, which
you were able to write a book at the time.
Yes, and I never really did any sort of internships. I was a walk-in tour guide here in town. I was just not interested in the line of work. It was more of a COVID decision because I was teaching before.
And you had a scholarship too.
Yes, and so they always say you want to go to a top 25 school or you want to go for free, because I always was reluctant to go, always sort of wary of it because you go into enormous amounts of debt.
Yeah.
So
what were your favorite parts of law school? What was your favorite part of the philosophical stuff?
I enjoyed not really having much responsibility.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Having fun.
Yeah, it's because I was here. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah. So I was a grown-ass man in college. That's because we went to military school. Yeah, so that's what also really drew us together.
What year were you at VMI?
So I matriculated.
What year did you graduate?
August 22nd, 2009 is when I matriculated. That's my brother's birthday, so I'll always remember that. And then I graduated. I had to get the hell out of there. I graduated December 19th, 2012. I graduated a semester early. And I also studied abroad for a semester. So I really was only there 3 years, thank God. You just get sort of disillusioned with it early on. You sort of.
Did you guys have the rat system, or what would you call
the rat
knobs
line.
Or rats?
We still have rat.
We had rats. I went to New Mexico Military Institute, which is actually, a lot of people don't know this. It's kind of like the bastard stepchild of Citadel in a way.
There we go.
Our architecture.
Citadel's already the bastard child of West Point.
No, it's a separate thing. It's older, I think, right? I don't know enough about Citadel, so I'm not going to comment on that. But our buildings were designed after Citadel's buildings. Our core was designed after Citadel's core. The school was founded in 1890 by General Goss. Was originally the Goss Military Institute.
Okay.
I believe he was a Southern general. I should know this. Probably going to get grilled for not knowing this. I believe he was a Southern general, but a lot of the systems were designed after Citadel.
Okay.
1890, West Point of the West.
There we go.
But it is, the junior military colleges back in the day, you'd get your associate's degree and commission.
Nice.
And so it was, we're going to get highly disciplined, great, lieutenants and captains. I don't think there was a lot of guys that were hitting general at that point. I think you had to get a bachelor's to do that, but it was like different systems. And now it's kind of, it's weird. They're still around, so you can get your commission in 2 years with your associates instead of 4.
This is why I don't have much respect for Alexander the Great. I mean, where did he get his bachelor's degree?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, you think you can just go past the Ganges and not have a bachelor's degree?
I know.
I don't think so.
I think they should almost go back, if they're going to keep the junior military colleges, they should almost go back to just getting their IOBC training. And,
Napoleon?
Who gives
where
a
did
shit?
you get your degree, sir?
Yeah.
That's the only way I'll have respect for you. Really?
I don't know. Yeah,
Really?
but you get what I'm getting at. Is like
I'm just laughing at the notion.
Limbo.
I'm just laughing at the notion that generals must be decided by some sort of credential. Yeah. Well,
there's more. There's more. I'm so disconnected from this stuff now, but there's more generals. I think high-ranking generals than there were during World War II. Like significant
more
amounts.
4 stars
more
now than ever.
Yeah,
that's what my Army buddies tell me.
I was in DC. I didn't really like. I met a fair amount of brass when I was in DC through. I did a lot of research programs, kind of at a very low level, with DoD, because I had my commissioning. I had a commissioning clearance, and I got to do. Yeah, it was fun. So I don't know how much I'm allowed to say about that, but I did a lot of research for DoD and other groups at the time connected to DoD, and I hated all the brass I met. They were just narcissistic libtards for the most part. I'm sorry. Sorry, brass. Most of you guys were narcissists. Douchebags. Bureaucrat.
He's unhinged.
You know
He's
what?
off the rails.
You know what? Yeah. I mean, look at General Milley.
Putting our foot down. We're staking our ground here.
No, I don't have nice things to say about DC. It's a gross city. It's a gross city with gross people.
That was the first time. I grew up real rural.
I don't think I like anyone I worked with. Maybe like one person there. So
yeah. My first
burn the bridge, kerosene, light it on fire. Fuck that
I had
city.
hopes and dreams, Seamus. I had hopes and dreams in DC.
Oh man, it's not the architecture's ugly. You know what it is? It's Hollywood for ugly people.
That's what they say.
Yeah, it's worse than that though, because they're just power hungry little extortionist pool bags, gross people. What do they even do?
What do they do?
They're all consultants.
It's just the imperial.
They're
just
sucking
the
off the
throne.
government teat. They've got like 4 masters from Georgetown, but you can't understand what they're saying. And
there you go.
Just gross people. I don't know. Yeah, you're from Virginia. They're ruining your state. They've taken over your state through Nova.
No, it's interesting, the evolution of the state of Virginia from some sort of Southern cavalier culture where it's this sort of refined, the governor is only in office for 4 years, and it's a very gentlemanly passing of the torch sort of thing, and everyone's more or less agrees. We just are looking out for the state of Virginia. And my old man, he used to do surveying up there around Nova, so like Nova is Northern Virginia. That's what we call it. And so it's
extension of the Beltway, basically.
It's an extension of the Beltway, and my dad was more or less an instrumental part of that. Instrumental is probably not the right word.
Not part of the Beltway, but
he was a surveyor.
Yeah,
so
he was doing the infrastructure
all these
there.
developers send my old man out there into the woods. We'd go out there and look for wetlands that they weren't allowed to build on, and we're looking at puddles, digging up dirt. It was a great job from my old man. He did well for himself, and then it was fun for my brother and I to go out there into the woods. So we had a lot of fun going out there.
You get in like the Shenandoah, and you get into like.
But so like all these suburbs
in Southern Virginia, it's you get outside of Nova, Virginia is still very cool. It's like a separate state.
I always the line of the DMZ for me back in the day between Nova and regular Virginia was Fredericksburg.
Okay,
it's a very cool historical town. Still had like Civil War sort of tours around there. My old man would take me all to the battlefields around those parts, and then but I mean, so I was up there in Richmond few months ago, and because that's where I was the last 7 years before I came here 4 years ago. And my buddy was telling me people are now commuting from Richmond to DC.
Really?
And so they already have the VRE. I may be mistaken. It's like this express that you take it from, like, I think it extends to Fredericksburg now. And you just go up to DC and you just go to your patent office job or whatever, what have you. And now I think I don't know if I read this, might just be something I conjured in my own mind, where they might be extending the VRE down to like Richmond. It's just an expressway for bureaucrats, which I imagine is pretty cool.
Well, it's crazy the amount of money. You look at like McLean and stuff, the amount of money of these people just sucking off the government teat, siphoning off money. It's absurd.
Well, the richest counties,
Silicon Valley and DC are
Loudoun,
the richest places.
Loudoun County,
and
not Fairfax. It's Loudoun and man, I'm forgetting. It's the richest by median counties in America.
Yeah, they're just subverting our republic and feeding the globalist empire, right? Sucking off the teat of. We're just a tax. Are we a country or are we a tax farm at this point?
Yeah, we have our economic zones and stuff like that. We're
becoming a bit of a globalist tax farm.
Yeah, we're recording this the day after the State of the Union, and neither of us watched it.
I don't watch it.
But if I had to summarize it, I imagine it went, immigrants are better people than you, and you should feel ashamed for yourself. If I had to summarize it,
yeah, no, I mean it's fascinating that how many people still don't understand. It's like, why you can't just shut the border. It's like
they're more American than you, Seamus.
Yeah, they're more American than us.
Yeah.
Well, it's like they want this malleable class of people to just take welfare and do what they say, right? And we'll get them DEI jobs. You can't get whatever, right? It's
welcome to the nativist section of the
Seamus Mulvihill show. Yeah, hey man, Japan's not really Japanese if there's no Japanese. You know what I mean? Is it really Japan at that point? I don't know. Why can't we have a culture, Ryan? Why can't we have a culture? I don't know though. It does seem like
it's the imperial. We're in an imperial phase.
Yeah,
it's the imperial phase.
It's this late like
one of my favorite passages of the Aeneid is when he goes into the underworld and he finds his father, and Aeneas is talking to his father, and his father's telling him the destiny of Rome, and it all marches out before him, and he sees what's about to occur, and then he gets the shield is later, the shield of Aeneas, where it also has the history of Rome upon it, its future. And so he tells him, and I'm probably going to butcher the Latin, but it's pro regere imperio populos, which more or less translates into to rule mankind and make the world obey. That is Rome's destiny. He alludes to the Greeks and their artists, their cultural philosophers and culture and arts, and he says that's not Rome's destiny, it's the rule, and to rule mankind. And so it's sort of like this, you get into, but we're sort of in that imperial phase. All empires
we're in a pronoun imperial phase. I don't think there's ever been a pronoun empire before, but I guess, the State Department likes that kind of stuff, and the Beltway likes that kind of stuff. So we're the pronoun empire. Yeah, we're just this deranged.
One might even call it the globalist American empire. What would be the acronym for that?
I think it's the gay.
Oh, wow.
That GAE?
Oh, gosh, I didn't mean to.
The globalist American empire. I like that. I might use that. It makes sense. There's a bit of that going on right now. It seems to be.
No, it's interesting. I mean, you want to live in interesting times. I mean, all times have their interest.
I'm not proud of it right now, though. Like what we're espousing, and I was in Poland, in Warsaw about a little over a year ago for their Patriots March. I'd seen, Vice and the BBC were basically at war with law and justice. The Brussels elite, the DC elite, State Department hated Duda and law and justice.
They're arresting all those guys right now.
Well, now they are. Well, they did. So so people understand. Poland had like a deep Catholic identity. They'd been occupied by communists, by Nazis, been the butt of every joke for a long time. And finally they're like, we've got our identity. We're getting things fixed up, dealing with the kind of entrenched communist old guard that ran some of their court systems and stuff. Yeah. And they were dealing with that. And they have this big Patriots Day where it's like, here's our identity. We are proud of our Christian heritage. We're nationalists, right? And everyone would write them off as Nazis, even though they were like slaughtered by the Nazis, right? And because they weren't fitting the globalist kind of DC,
they just don't
Brussels
play the
agenda.
games.
Yeah, they weren't playing the game.
games.
So what happens? State Department launches a color revolution there with Brussels, and now they're throwing all those guys in jail, and it's disgusting, right? So it's, I don't know, it's like we've almost become like a lamer version, more deranged, lame version of what the communists have done in regards to
there's
foreign
that
policy.
really,
it's disgusting.
hackneyed meme where it's, are we the baddies? It's a very hackneyed meme, and you sort of wonder, it's like,
the State Department are the baddies for sure.
Yeah, and
they've become.
You just have to wonder, it's like, are we the force of...
We're in like 20, kind of probably 15 or 20 like small, low footprint wars. You look at, like, we've got open source. We have bases in Somalia.
The sun doesn't set on the American
we're still doing stuff in Yemen. Like we've got guys everywhere doing all this, political manipulation.
Operation Prosperity Guardian. Yeah. I need my plastic stuff from China to go through the Red Sea, through the Suez Canal, so I can enjoy it.
How many conflicts?
My prosperity's at stake, Seamus.
I don't think it's helping our prosperity necessarily. It seems like it's gone rogue. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like the State Department, intelligence community, I just throw it on like the Beltway elite.
Okay.
Are, from the corporations there that suck off the government teat to their
a lot of teat talk.
Lapdogs in Silicon Valley. Yeah. They're all the same thing. They're 98% like progressive libtards. Yeah. And so you can't survive in that culture without being one. Let's be real about it. And it's like, I don't know, man. It seems like it's so disconnected from they like to say our sacred democracy, our democracy.
Note the religious language.
How engaged is the average person on our operations in freaking Somalia or Yemen?
Yeah, well,
we're not a democracy. Like we're not that part of the government is completely rogue and not operating within American interests.
Well, when they say our democracy,
they mean progressive DC libs, give us your money. They mean their thing.
Yes.
And we're not a democratic country. We're a democratic republic, bro. We're a republic.
Yeah, well,
we're supposed to be. We're not anymore.
We're past that point of making that contention, I think.
I don't know. We're really getting off the rails into deep kind of esoteric geopolitics and the Rome type stuff.
We were just going to do a little intro.
How often do you think about the Roman Empire? Right?
Oh, God, man. Talk about an old meme.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we think about it every day. We're Roman Catholic. So, I mean,
we think about it
the Mass is that's what's... So, for instance, you came back to the church. You're a cradle Catholic. I am not. I got
into it organically.
I was confirmed into the church 2018. Yeah. I should know. It was April 1st that sort of funny.
Which is fascinating because of all the scandal and kind of, you're at a period where the church, if you don't know a lot about
you would
it
think
and
less
the
people
history and stuff, it's a tough, difficult time to join. What got you into it?
So I was talking to Father Wilson one day. We had him over for dinner, the wife and I, and Father Wilson, he works at the St. John the Baptist Cathedral.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He's the father there. He works there.
He's the jefe there.
I'm sort of minimizing his station. And so, no, I just read myself into it. I was pretty hard into, like, first I was baptized by a priestess in the Episcopalian Church up in Virginia. So just throwing some humor to there saying priestess. But then I was at age 7. My high school girlfriend's dad made fun of me because I was a Christmas Easter only, the CEO as he called me.
Yeah.
Never really grew up. Parents always told me, get good grades, go to college, everything works out. They were not necessarily religious themselves, which is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And then, so I just sort of read myself into it. A lot of Dostoevsky, a lot of T.S. Eliot, a lot of, I started to realize, like, you can't read poetry as a materialist. Like you're not going to get it. It's going to pass you by. You're not going to understand it. And so that's what kind of led me down the road of just sort of finding these
metaphysical
meanings,
type
the meanings with
stuff,
meaning between the layers and things like that. I guess I don't know. I'm not doing a very good description, but that's what sort of. There's one poem that sticks out in my mind. It's by blood we live, the hot, the cold, to ravage and redeem the world. There is no bloodless myth will hold. By Christ's blood, men made free, though in close shrouds. Oh, well, I'm butchering it, but it's that one line. There is no bloodless myth will hold. That's what really kind of brought me to it, because a lot of the myths of today are just sort of these anodyne, oh, we just get along. We all just agree to, oh, that person should get rights. That person should get rights. Oh, we all get rights. And so it's this very anodyne, like, oh, we just peacefully came around Gandhi. My God. Yeah, I was just belted with Gandhi lines all through high school. And so you're just sort of like, oh, peaceful, peaceful, peaceful. But no, like and then it's just, why is there suffering? Theodicy. You just sort of get into this, all sorts of aspects. Well, for instance, I was very intrigued by like the brothers Karamazov, Ivan most especially, where he was probably the greatest advocate for just not believing. He just says he returns the ticket. He's given a ticket, but he just says, no, thank you.
I saw his grave in Russia.
Dostoevsky's?
Yeah.
Nice.
They had, I forget, I did this in 2018. I was like, I'd left this job. The company got acquired by BlackRock. And, they didn't want me there long term. And so I was like, man, I've never gotten to travel. I had a security clearance and couldn't travel prior to this, and clearance had expired and stuff. And I was like, I'd really like to see more like the Orthodox Christian perspective of Russia before we're not able to go there, before this war escalates, right? Because the war was already escalating.
Yeah, 2014 is when it started.
It was a whole production getting
arguably 2004. They tried to do the Orange Revolution in 2004.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
but it was 2018.
Thing.
It was still. I had friends that were in Ukraine, and when it was that border conflict. Prior to that, I had like 5 friends deploy there. Yeah. So it was like they were watching my ass when I was there. But I found this fantastic Orthodox priest who was a lot of like former Russian.
Interesting.
Citizens lived in the States, or they had Russian genealogy, and they did a pilgrimage of all the Orthodox holy sites from St. Petersburg and surrounding areas to Moscow and surrounding areas, and then in Yekaterinburg, I'm probably butchering the name, but basically it was the 100-year anniversary of when the Tsars died, which they considered a martyrdom. So it was a whole tour of like...
Was it Nick? Old Saint Nick II?
Yeah, it was a whole tour of Tsarist Russia. It was very, very cool. And we went to like these cool monasteries. I saw where they found the bodies of the Tsars of the Romanov family. Cool. It was very, very cool. But they had this. I remember they had this graveyard of great Russian poets and authors, and Dostoevsky's grave was there. And it's interesting because the communists wanted to uproot and gut all of that. And
sort of like the commies here.
Yeah, they want to. But they realized they would piss the Russian people off to a point of where they were jeopardizing their own power structure to destroy all these beautiful things were built. So they, at the time, kept like the Winter Palace and some of these, graves up as like museums. Like, oh, these were things of the past and we've conquered them, and they're museums to the people now. And it's weird. There's a strange dichotomy in Russia, where talking to and it was a very cool, because you're talking through the sphere of religion to some of these people, and yes, the state still, the FSB and the old communist guard still kind of manipulates the church there to a certain degree, but we have some of that here, believe it or not. And it was so interesting. There's this dichotomy of like where these people that have been oppressed for so long, that hold on to the religion, tradition, all other stuff, are finally having a little bit more of a voice. That's happening slowly. But you still have this kind of communist old guard that wants to take back. It's like a broken country that's lost for its identity. It's very interesting. But the old Christian tradition there is really interesting. It's powerful. They were slaughtered and
it's a state faith.
Yeah. Well, no, but they have people that are still like, that were in underground churches for a long time. Yeah. They were brutalized by the communists, and they're able to have a little bit more of a voice now. I mean, obviously, this conflict's going to make things a lot fucking worse, but it was interesting.
That's what I always... So, when one reads books and you just sort of go through all the greats and stuff, what I found reading a lot of Russian literature is just the incredible... They're very analogous to the U.S. They're huge, sweeping, continent-sized countries. They could more or less live independently themselves off of the natural resources.
Tons of different ethnicities. And
they also had a very similar... It was even around the same time in the 1860s. We had the question of slavery. We had to settle that question. Yeah. They had the question of serfdom. They more or less had serfs who were owned, sold. Gogol, I cannot speak
They're
Russian.
Basically slaves, yeah.
Dead Souls is such a great book where he was just going around trading dead serfs. Like it was a fraud. He was like a fraudulent trading of dead serfs. He was like, oh, I have this many serfs, but they're all dead. and he would buy like rights to dead serfs. It's a very humorous book, dark humor. And then
they have a really dark sense of humor there, right?
Yes.
It's always been a brutal place to survive,
yes.
right? You look, even the Tsarist history, it was like, it's been a pretty rough place to like, see the creation of St. Petersburg. You know how many serfs died in the construction of that
Russians
city?
and suffering go hand in hand.
Oh, they're a tough, it's like a sad kind of.
But what also makes us so similar is it's just we're anti-European. Russia's very anti-European. They're very not anti, but wary, leery. Sort of, they question the West and what comes out of the West. The West being Western
skittish,
Europe, like
paranoid.
Dostoevsky, Tolstoy. I mean, you name them all. They were like, what's coming out of Europe? All this socialism, Jacobinism, communism. Like they are very wary of it, and it was sort of funny. Dostoevsky assigned. He figured socialism and communism would arise out of the Catholic Church and the Grand Inquisitor Ivan Karamazov's poem and Brothers Karamazov, and it's just happened to land in Russia. He didn't really call that one, but yeah. So that's what's so sad. Like all this. Like my God, when Russia illegally invaded unprovoked Ukraine, they were like, oh, well, we have to stop Tchaikovsky concerts and stuff. And there's just Philistines everywhere. Sadly,
it's crazy to me. The most interesting thing about how this again, I don't understand that I'm not from Russia. I'm not from Ukraine. I don't understand the nuances of that conflict.
Yeah,
I'm not going to pretend to be one of these idiots that understands the either side, right? Like either side, like the people that are all like pro Putin or the people that are like
I'm not
hopping
like
on the I'm not saying
I just
that.
like Russian literature. It's not that I'm adoring the Russian state.
I'm not attacking you that at all.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, or these idiots that are just like, oh, it's fucking, like this war in Ukraine is so great. It's like hundreds of thousands of people are dead. A bunch of women have been raped. It's fucking awful. The Ukrainians are just as fucked up. It's a corrupt.
Well, it's a war.
Fucked up. I mean, but they're a corrupt, fucked up country too. And it's just like this whole.
Could it be because they're a little Russian themselves?
I don't know. Maybe. But when I was in Poland, none of the people there want this thing to fucking escalate. It's these people from DC that they're not going to fight. They're not going to do anything about it.
Well, it's imperial boundaries that are currently imperial boundaries. So Russia, the best sort of assessment I read was surprisingly enough in National Review, a once great paper, a once great magazine, and the guy said this is imperial triage. Like the Russians are responding to losing imperial boundaries. It's not their expanding boundaries.
They want to control their buffer zone, right?
Exactly.
Like they're very paranoid. They lost. Look at the Battle of Stalingrad. How many people they've lost when they've been invaded? From that to Napoleon.
Yes,
they're very skittish when you get on their border.
That's what I'm saying. Like this is triage. This is not them expanding borders. This is them like, holy shit, we're losing land here, and we got to get back.
Yeah,
they had their little orbit of influence. And
but
Georgia's another instance.
What I was getting at was, it's funny, these quote unquote open-minded, now that they have all the imperial power and are, run 90% of our country and economy, they are vicious, right? Like I remember I was talking with this Air Force guy here who remained unnamed. And I was talking about like, spending time there, the Orthodox Church, this and that. I'm Catholic. I've gone to Poland. Like Polish deeply do not like. I got along with a lot of nationalists in Poland. They deeply do not trust or like the Russians, right? I'm not some kind of Russian nationalist.
You know why there's only two?
Wait. Let me tell this fucking story, Ryan. God damn it.
I was just getting a joke in.
But people are so quick to slander you.
Yes,
it's like the early Iraq war propaganda. They're so quick to be like, oh, what are you, like a fucking Putin supporter? It's like, bro, I'm like right wing. I hate communists. Don't get me wrong. Like I cannot stand lefties and communists, right?
Well, probably the most reactionary element in America today
they will paint you that way.
Cable news viewer.
If you talk about like Russian literature or the Orthodox Church or something, they'll paint you in the same way that the like you're with the fucking terrorists or whatever. It's like a slander kind of power move. It's such a bitch thing.
No, that reminds me. Churchill during World War II was ridiculed and chastised in the papers because he, shall we say, doffed his cap to Rommel, the Desert Fox. He said this, he acknowledged his brilliance as a general. And so he was obviously just lambasted. And so I was sort of reading this one aspect of, like, you look at the Iliad.
Rommel was one of the greatest generals of all time. He's still,
and you can acknowledge that. You can acknowledge it and still want to be opposed.
Wasn't Rommel the one that tried to kill Hitler too?
Well, you can get into all those arcane things. Whether
it doesn't really matter. But
exactly,
I'm saying
that doesn't even matter.
It's still
that's irrelevant.
A
to
general
the point
that people study to this day.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Still relevant to the point. And so that's what Churchill was saying. Like, you can still acknowledge great things amongst your enemies, and that's we're about to maybe dig into theology a little too much, but love your enemy. It's one of the most annoying things is, oh, you're supposed to love your enemy. Why don't you?
Why don't you give him a big kiss?
Yeah,
that's not what it means.
Why do you mean you don't want me to, as a 6'5" man in a dress, you don't want me to read to your kids and to tell your kids that maybe they should question their gender? You're supposed to love me. You're supposed to love your enemies. It's like, no, love is a much
deeper thing than that. You're
wider.
willing the good of them. You're willing the good that they'll change their mind and change their ways one day. Doesn't mean I'm going to let you groom my fucking kid.
Because guess what?
Give me a break. Yeah.
It doesn't say love your former enemy. That it doesn't say love the person that is your enemy, but you're not going to be an enemy after you love them. No, it's like, it's still your enemy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there was a little thing called the Crusades and the Reconquista. Ever heard of it? Yeah, man, we're going a little bit off the rails in the theology and geopolitics right now, but I'm loving it. Yeah. So, VMI, man, like I feel like, these institutions, NIMI too, like they're different at different times. Like I'd only recommend specific people for specific purposes to go to some of these former military schools at this point. Like, obviously we went when there was females in the Corps, so you're not really getting that male hardcore bonding experience as much, right? And kind of, it's not existent, but there was still, what I got out of it was like understanding of discipline, systems, and like the nature of people. You get a crash course in, you know what I mean, the Corps of Cadets politics of like how fucked up people can be to each other with power, and how leadership functions, and dealing with, I mean, I guess if you're going to be a government worker eventually, dealing with how these bureaucracies work, dealing with how these leadership systems work. Like, it's a crash course in how that stuff works in the modern time. You know what I mean? Like, it's a quick little LARPy experience of how that's going to work eventually, and how people are with leadership and stuff.
To speak to your point about,
it's not fun.
Yeah, but
it's not what it could be.
To speak to your point about whether you would recommend someone to go. So, for instance,
you're not going to be like, I'm a strong man out of this place. It hasn't been that way in a while. Like, you can better yourself. You can find your people that are going to do that stuff there and get really fit and all that stuff. But like, they've made it a co-ed institution. They've stopped. The warrior identity isn't what it once was. It's just not. Certainly. That's propaganda. It's not true, right? So,
well, I was gonna harken back to something we said earlier, where I was quoting the Aeneid and something that I've written for a website about VMI. I wrote it about VMI, and it was more or less just a big complaint. It's not the most interesting thing, and it's not anything novel.
I love that article you wrote. It was a fantastic article.
But again, none of this is necessarily novel. However, I tried to inject some sort of interesting aspect into it by relating it back to rule mankind and make the world obey. And so if you go to Ginsburg's majority opinion back in 94, 3, whenever VMI was when they forced the women into the schools, when they decided that women had to join, first of all, she codified the exception that proves the rule. It was the most obvious logical fallacy that she just said, oh yeah, if one woman can do it, they all can do it. So it's immediately, you just sort of dismiss it. But there's just this aspect to rule mankind and make the world obey, where the Soviet Union just collapsed, right? The greatest multipolar aspect in all of human history, where it's these two empires, not nations, empires, aiming thousands of world-destroying weapons at each other, is now ended. Over. Russia's being looted. That's a very contentious point. Some people will say, well, they had reactionaries take over with Putin, etc. But so the point I was trying to make was that you can't really have those institutions when there's no more frontiers. The frontiers now, I guess, in space, but that's still some.
No, it's not really.
So there's no more. sort of a warrior spirit because there's no unfounded places. There's no, I don't know. I'm sort of
I get what you're saying with the frontiers, but you need a warrior spirit to defend your culture and defend your people and stuff. But like,
but not in
what
an
is
empire.
that now?
You don't do that in an imperial phase.
I mean, there's empires that are actually, I don't know. I'm not a historian, but I don't think any empire has sold its core people out to the point that we have.
And so what I was saying,
identity and core principles.
What I was saying,
right?
the next frontier is mankind itself. And so that's what you see today. It's to rule mankind. So now it's mankind. It's you yourself that needs to be conquered. It's the whole human nature is now the next frontier. That's their frontier. That's why they say, I can change what you are. I can change creation itself. I can turn you into something you're not.
Transhumanist kind of stuff,
well,
right?
Some people attach transhumanism into other sort of, shall we say, identity issues of the
it's a little bit like spectrum. That. Yeah, but it's like we can become something, can change the human condition and stuff. It's like they've tried that before.
It's a revolt against creation. It's a very Promethean thing. Like I am revolting against my body itself. I can achieve other things. And it's sort of so that's what I was trying to allude to necessarily in it, because I was saying a place like VMI, the way it was before, because I went there during 2009, 2012, and there's this always the old core comes in, they complain, oh God, it's not the same, because if it would immediately go back to being the same if you just did these three things. They're always like, oh, I can restore it back to what it once was. And I was saying, no, you can't. Like the conditions of today.
Times change. Yeah.
The conditions of today, you cannot make it what it once was. You can't go back. So that's it's a conservatives fall into this trap.
100%.
Like, I want to go back. I want to go back.
I don't like
you can't go back.
Yeah, I agree with you. As kind of a man of the right, I don't like the term conservative anymore. It's like, conserve what? Like, even the traditionalism thing in religion. I agree with a lot of what the traditionalist spirit and identity in Catholicism. I agree a lot of what they're saying and more in-depth understanding. But it's like, why can't you have something new that doesn't like change the truth? Or why can't you have something new that doesn't change core principles that's actually good and not like perverted and degrading, right? It's like there's no hope for the future in these, I guess, conservative, traditional type circles. There's no like, what's next? Technology's changed, the globe's changed, the economies have changed. Like, why can't you do something new that's, dealing with the time that we're living in rather than like, well, why can't it just be like the 1950s? It's like, because it's not the 1950s anymore.
You can't go back. And so I was sort of making this, I was talking to a friend last night. We were talking about stuff we're writing. And
I'm going to throw in a Zen real quick.
No, I'm probably going to get one in a second.
Zen 6s. Do them.
I'm going to grab one in a second. But I was telling Buddy and I were talking about this. Patrick and I were talking about that. And Ezra Pound, just saying the name sort of brings alarm bells because of his politics. But he was a better poet than a politic, than a political theorist. And he always said you have to take the old and make it new. Mm-hmm. And so it's because T.S. Eliot wrote a very interesting essay on tradition and what it's supposed to be. And so I'm obviously no literary scholar, but the modernists, I'm most infatuated with them because they just sort of take the old and they reveal it into the modern world. You can still see James Joyce, the great, the ultimate modernist. He took the Odyssey and put it into 1905 Dublin, and you can see the Odyssey emerging through Dublin in 1905. And so that's sort of like, one thing I can't stand is sort of like these guys, oh, we just need to go back to old architecture, old this, old that. It's like, no, you can't go back. You got to take the old and inject something that of today. Like Baudelaire talks about this. You can't just paint a painting of someone in 1500s garb and just of today. It's like, no, you have to find the eternal within today.
That's so good, dude. Find the eternal within today. I love that because eternal truths, right?
Yes.
Like the problem with I don't like the terminology being utilized in a lot of the Catholic kind of warfare right now. It's like, well, the quote unquote modernist crowd, right?
Yes.
Basically what they're doing is they're saying like eternal truths aren't true. They're twisting what core realities are.
You're talking about postmodernists. Yeah, I was talking about the literary movement of the modernists.
But I was pivoting to what's going on in religion and politics right now is everyone thinks that like to be a man of today, you have to change what core eternal truths and morality mean.
We're currently in a state where yesterday is wrong.
All the people controlling futuristic ideas right now are like deeply deranged and perverted and morally screwed up people.
Lay it on.
Well, it's true. It's true. The people controlling like what's the future, where are things going, are deranged, sick people. It's just true. 90% of them across the board, it's true. Sorry.
Not sorry.
But a lot of it is the fault of these kind of grifter, boomer conservatives or whatever the hell you want to call them that are just like, oh, we have to be on. And, I'm going to yell on some janky MAGA channel or some religious podcast about how we need to get back to the 50s. It's like you've done nothing.
Yeah,
you've yelled at the screen and you've
productive.
Accomplished nothing. There's no future plan. There's no engagement in what's actually where things are actually going, and there's no hope for the future. Right? It's just like I want things to be how they used to be.
So there is a Latin phrase for it. Now again, I'm probably going to butcher it because I'm no classicist. I'm no philologist. I can't even say the word. Yeah. Sub specie eternitatis. It's from the view of eternity. So like art should be created and viewed,
and beautiful art should be beautiful.
Eternity. Yes, but the thing is, like you would think, there's always going to be great art created in any age. It's going to emerge at some point. It's might be divine providence that emerges. I mean, etc. But I don't know where I was really going with that.
No, great art is eternal, right?
Yes.
You can look back, stuff back to like Raphael and stuff. I mean, you look back to Renaissance art, older stuff than that. Like great art is eternally beautiful,
but it still speaks to their age, but yet maintains an eternal aspect.
But like, why is it that the movers and shakers in culture and arts are like, I'm gonna throw a can of soup at a freaking
there's some aspects to.
I'm going to throw ink at a canvas and talk about how I hate capitalism, and
I'm still a Rothko stan in some aspects. To quote some Gen Z, to say stan, I just about to get sick. I just said that, but I'm still somewhat. There's some things. I mean, you just have to find it. It's difficult, but
I'm not saying there's not fantastic modern artists. There's fantastic modern architecture. There is, but I'm saying the spheres of influence
I know what you mean.
Are not controlled by people that are doing great things right now.
I know what you mean.
Charleston is what's so cool about Charleston is the beautiful old architecture, right? And the beautiful old culture.
Yes.
But like you look at some of all these new cities that are like seeing growth and positive things happen right now. A lot of the new architecture is ugly.
Yes.
Why does that have to be the case?
Yes.
Why do we have to build? We've got the resources to build beautiful things.
My favorite description.
Why do we have to build ugly things?
So I think there's an apartment complex on Meeting, and it's something you would find all around Nova. It's in Charlottesville. It's in Richmond. It's everywhere. It's a lot in Charlotte, and they call it fast casual. It's sort of like Chipotle architecture. It's just fast casual. Easy ingredients. Slop it on.
It's gross, right? Yeah. People are going to live with that, and it's going to affect
the worst part is it's like soundproof. Oh, it's like you can't hear anything. Oh, it's all these. You're just in a pod.
It's cookie cutter, gross, utilitarian stuff, and people that build stuff like that should be thrown in jail. To quote Tucker Carlson, it's disgusting. They are enemies to the common man.
Well, an enemy of beauty is an enemy to me.
Yeah, 100%.
My politics, I like to try to make them informed by beauty.
The Ayn Rand types that deify the free market piss me off to the same extent that some of the communists do, where it's like, well, he can just do whatever he wants. It's like, no, you're building ugly shit, utilitarian stuff that takes society down a notch, right? So how is that a good thing? Yes. And there's no other. You have to be either an Ayn Rand free market type or a disgusting neo-Marxist.
I like to think that age is over. I like to think, because I remember when
it's ending. The dialogue, the open window shifted.
I like to think it's ending. I don't know.
It's crazy though. It's wacky how things are working, how quickly we're collapsing and being subverted. Anyway,
they have a proud.
What brought you to Charleston, Ryan?
What did bring me here? COVID.
To Charleston.
It was a COVID choice.
I think more about that.
We touched upon it where, so, teaching in Richmond. I was teaching at my mother's middle school, but I was teaching ESL there. everything shut down. I applied for other jobs because I wasn't going to be invited back, shall we say. And then had some opportunities that I didn't really like. And then I had a LSAT going stale on the vine. They only last 5 years until they expire. My old man, he always said, getting a law degree, it's recession proof, because he was a surveyor. So 2008 was a big hit on him because no one was building. So he always told me to get a law degree. Smart. It's a smart thing. However, prudence is like, you don't want to go into debt. That was always my hang up, because I got waitlisted, Washington Lee, U of R, maybe 2017, around there, because I applied in like April, because I just sort of made these rash choices. Oh, I'm just going to pay the $50 application fee and see if I get in. And they're always like, oh yeah, just pay another $50 to stay on the wait list, and maybe someone will drop out. And obviously no one drops out. So I had a family friend, went to the school here, and she has her own practice. And I thought, you know what the hell? Like, if you breach a contract at Harvard, it's the same thing at any school. The law's the same wherever it's taught. It's all just about reputation. So applied down here on a whim. 2020, it's COVID. I actually was living in Richmond with my brother, went back home, helped my parents, because my old man was at that time sick. So we went back home to help them out. We have like 5 acres in the middle of nowhere. Went back home, lived at home, age 29, 30. Then, just applied. And 3 days later, Charleston School of Law, it's like, you're in.
You got a scholarship too. Huh?
And then so first they accepted me. Like that day, I think it was like a Tuesday, they accepted me. And I'm excited. Oh, great. I got into law school. Then they sent an email saying, hey, like, we're practically going to cover all the cost. And I was like, oh my God, yes, I'm obviously going to do this now, because now I don't have to worry about the cost. Well, so the reason I applied is because I've always loved this. I'm digressing, shall we say. Something's leading me astray. So, but yes, I get in, get that scholarship. At that point, first I thought it was a scam. I was asking my dad, I was like, do you think this is a scam? We did a bunch of research. He was like, oh no, it's not a scam. It's actually real. It's a for-profit school, which, I guess we don't want to defame anybody here, especially a bunch of lawyers. But it's a good school. I'd recommend it. Put that on the camera. Great education, etc. So I get in.
What got you into Charleston? Like what got you to stay here?
What even like made me apply though was so the first time I ever came down here was 2018, 2017. I can't really remember. No, it's 2017, summer 2017. And I just got fired from one of my second jobs. And so I got fired from there. And I was leaving my apartment. I was about to move back in with my brother. And because he and I we're good friends, so it's very lucky to be good friends with your siblings. I recommend it. So we were living together. So I got the security deposit from my old apartment. And I thought, what the hell? I have like no money, no property. Why don't I just go on vacation with the security deposit? Like a typical poor person. I have no foresight with money. So I take this money, come down here, stay in the hostel here. I forget the name of the hostel. There's one hostel. But I drove down at 2 a.m. on a Sunday, came down here, got here at like 8, 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, and parked over next to the waterfront, the Joe Riley Waterfront Park, and walked around. It was humid, hot, loved it. Got real, shirt sticking to your back. That's what happens here in the summer. Then it turned out to be a second Sunday. I think it was in August. It's the second Sunday in August. And on second Sunday, if people aren't familiar, they shut down King Street from Calhoun to Queen, and you can just walk around in the middle of the street. They have artisans, food trucks, etc. So loved it. Went to Husk by myself. I came down here by myself. I was like, you know what, whatever. Because I had read about it, heard about it. And I was in Richmond, supposed to be sort of a town, but it was just sort of a college town. I was like, this is, it's just, VCU has like 40, 50K students, something absurd like that. So you just kind of feel like you're not really in some sort of place. So you sort of read about this place, loved it, walked all around, still have my old pictures on my phone. And that's what made me really apply. After I heard my family friend, she's successful enough as an attorney, I thought, you know what the hell, I'm going to throw in the towel and become an attorney. Applied, got in, came down here, and I've loved it ever since. Got married New Year's Eve, 2022. Wife and I came down here. Still thinking about going to Virginia. I was like this close. And because I had a job offer up there. And I was just going to take over the old family home. And but the wife loved it. I love it. We're very fortunate to have a great place downtown, slightly north of Broad. So
there's something about the architecture, the aesthetic. I know the old Southerners feel like the manners and stuff have declined here. I'm sure they have, but there's still a charm.
Oh yeah,
a friendliness.
Oh yeah,
beautiful aesthetic. It's just a great city. Traditional vibe. It's clean.
It's a town for opportunity right now.
Yeah,
too.
and there's a lot of growth. It's beautiful. People are nice. It's a great lifestyle.
Before my old man passed away, he was like, "Don't throw it out. Don't leave. You're going to be there for 3 years. You might find better opportunity there."
And for guys like us too. I mean, like I grew up in Colorado. It's my home. I never wanted to leave. I loved the whole outdoors culture and everything there. But the type of people that have moved there with the massive expansion of the marijuana industry and other things like that, it's a bunch of losers moving to that state right now. There's a lot of,
Rome was built on wine. No great empire was built on drugs.
It's just a drug culture. It's dirty. It's radical. It's turning into Portland. I felt like a stranger in my own city. This is a city we can be ourselves. People that love America, love the Western civilization and stuff. Like we can actually.
I like to love Charleston more than I love America.
I love Charleston. No, I love it. Love the people here. I love the culture here. I love the Southern culture. It's awesome.
No, it's awesome.
People have been so good to me here.
It's so great here. Don't come here. Do not come here.
Don't come here unless you're like us.
Temporary. Just come here for temporary reasons.
Yeah,
it's already too bad. The traffic's too bad already.
It's fantastic. I mean, it's really such a special place.
No, it's awesome.
It's one of the greatest American cities, I think.
No, and I met a lot of great people, like the gentleman across from me. No, we're very fortunate.
A lot of sophisticated people moving here too.
Oh yeah, more people moving. I mean, it's
from here. A lot of really cool.
Oh yeah,
people with deep roots, 7th generation type people. Father West.
Yes.
What a cool guy. How many generations has he been here? Like, I think his family goes back to like the beginning of Charleston.
Since the beginning.
He is a wealth of knowledge, fantastic guy. There's all these local guys, just amazing people, right?
The guy we were fishing with yesterday, awesome guy.
The awesome whole outdoors fishing culture here is so awesome too.
Yes.
Ripping.
That's when I really got into it.
Oh,
so I never really hunted till I came down here, because I had some buddies in law school. They're like, "Hey, you want to go shoot dove?" And I've always been a pretty good clay shooter, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll actually shoot something alive for once, and something I can eat."
Yeah.
And no, just an absolute blast.
Ripping yesterday, the awesome. Flatboat, getting some reds.
Yeah, that was great.
Getting some trout, it was awesome. Fried that trout up, it was delicious.
Oh, it was awesome.
Man. And then dove hunting, they need to get the wild quail cubbies. I don't know what they're going to do about that, but
it's sad.
there's just turkey hunting and stuff. It's awesome. Getting on these whole plantations, it's beautiful.
When does turkey start? Should be in the next few weeks.
Couple weeks, yeah. We're gonna go.
Gotta get out there.
Pop some turkey soon. Yeah,
I gotta get out there. I've never done turkey hunting yet.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what really brought me. I mean, it's just
the genteel. As a man of the West who's a little rough around the edges, I do appreciate the kind of politeness and genteel nature of the South. It's lovely. The people are fantastic. I love the Southerners. They're great. Yeah.
It's hierarchical. It's quality, not equality.
Yeah.
Which is obviously blasphemous to say in terms of the civil religion today, because the civil religion today is equality before all else. But I mean, guess what? Naturally, we're not equal. So it's something
people are good at different things, right?
To really sort of expound upon this point, when the founders wrote "All men are created equal," they weren't talking about equal in ability, equal in rights necessarily, because rights have, guess what, obligations attendant to those rights.
There's responsibility.
Yes, you have responsibilities and obligations that go with those rights. And so it's more just probably one of the more fascinating is probably too strong a word, more interesting analyses I've read of all men are created equal. We're all created equal as creators of cultures per se, of of just
opportunities.
And this all, not to get too, again,
not to get too esoteric.
Well, not esoteric, but too like, I don't want to say Bible thumpy, and I don't want to say, but the Eucharist, I think we were talking earlier in the conversation, it passed my mind to say this, but one of the greatest, to cite more poetry, something that really also brought me to Catholicism was Yeats, who is not a Catholic, the Irish poet. He was a little more mystical in his ideas, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I don't really know his history, but he's in only through custom and ceremony. I'm butchering it. It's only through custom and ceremony our innocence and beauty born. It's only through custom and ceremony, and the greatest ceremony there is, the greatest custom. Because we were talking about you have to find the eternal in today, but the one thing T.S. Eliot described communion and the Eucharist as the timeless intersecting with time.
It's the modern. I agree with what you're saying. And this isn't. This has not been traditionally a Catholic city at all. But not at all. I've seen a lot of Anglicans and Baptists.
It's an anti-Catholic city.
What? No,
it's an anti-Catholic.
Yeah,
city,
it was an anti-Catholic city. But I'm seeing a lot of Anglicans and other Protestants get involved with Catholicism because it's like they get this idea of, especially like the well-read.
Because nothing else can hold. Well, if you don't hold these things, guess what? You're going to fold one day.
Yeah, but also the when you experience the Eucharist and the way the temple's set up, it's like the modern day Ark of the Covenant. Like God is present there.
Yes.
It's a very literal. It's not just some guy reading scripture. You're literally like God is present here. Show some reverence, right?
The bloodless myth will not hold. It's there. It's a sacrifice. That's why they do the incense. There are the Roman pagan aspects to it with the incense, and the priest is facing away from he is conducting the sacrifice, not you're attending to it. That's what this is getting into the Second Vatican Council. And I'm no theologian, so I'm probably butchering some of these aspects, but it's not a bloodless myth. It's every day. And that's what makes Good Friday such an important day, because they don't do the Eucharist. They don't do the sacrifice that day because that's the day it occurred. So that's the one day it doesn't occur. And so,
it's cool, man. It gets back into the old Jewish priesthood and stuff. It's like a continuation of everything. There's a lot of nuance and sophistication to it. And I don't know. It's been a powerful thing in my life, and it's interesting to see.
It informs the way you view the world.
Yeah,
it does.
No, 100%. You need those eternal truths.
I used to lament the Latin Mass, but I was married with the Latin Mass, and I'm probably going to keep going. My wife wants me to keep going.
But also,
but I like to crawl sober to the cathedral.
Even though Charleston has historically been a fairly anti-Catholic place,
yes.
The cool thing, it's Holy City,
yes.
Right? The cool thing about the roots, the Christian Protestant roots in the Southeast, they're still that remnant, high church remnant of the West. The Protestants have done a very good job in the Southeast of retaining that Christian identity.
This won't be on the latest news. I mean, there was a schism here. The Episcopalian Church had a schism. All these beautiful churches here had a schism in 2020. Can you imagine a schism? And I love it when people say in 2024, how could you say that? It's no, this is always going to keep continuing. Human nature does not change. So there was a schism, and the Anglican Church of North America was born. And so they have eschewed, shall we say, some of the more progressive aspects of Episcopalianism, because that's where I was originally baptized as Episcopalian.
Yeah, I went to an Episcopalian church growing up in school.
It's a very old American thing to be as Episcopalian. Robert E. Lee, George Washington.
Yeah, I went to an Episcopalian school, K through 8th, and it was, that you could see the seeds of that growing up, though, of the overly progressive. I was
baptized by a priestess.
Yeah, well, not only that, the kind of universalism kind of stuff had seeped into that. I remember that growing up, but it's. It's crazy to see that divide where it's just not even a biblical. There's parts of it that aren't even biblical anymore. Anyway, man, we've kind of been all over the place, got a little esoteric this podcast, but I think, for our viewers, really where we want to go with this is with this project and with Heartland is, there's a huge opportunity in the new media space right now for original content, and I really want to create, being a good custodian of Charleston, intellectual, respectful, fun casual conversation through this show where we can get a wide spectrum of people with cool experiences and perspectives on through long form conversation. I think it's going to be great.
Oh yeah.
I think we're going to be able to cover a lot of ground. It's going to be wonderful. So I'm glad to have you on this project. I think you're perfect for it.
I mean, when you told me, and I just got out of law school, I was like, what the hell? Like, I'm not going to sit in an office and calculate damages for someone after this. No way in hell with an opportunity like that. No, it's a great leap, but it's going to be fun. It's a whole lot of fun. And like we've said this numerous times, like with the way, God, I haven't watched one of those cable news shows in so long. And then I watched them 2 months ago and it's just sad. Yeah, to quote a certain former president, but it's just
they're just trash. These trash propaganda. They're not actually developing ideas and concepts.
It's not even that. It's falling apart. It's falling apart. It seems like things are disintegrating, and it's trying to reemerge. It's trying to reform itself. I mean, there's obviously a lot of centralized forms of, I think it's like epistemic sources, shall we say. It's sort of funny, like the whole misinformation, disinformation thing is like, well, our epistemic sources are just not in line, and it's just, it's just one of their ploys or whatever. But this is going to be a lot of fun. We're in the best town in America for it.
We're in the greatest town in America, and we look forward to doing more of this.
Oh, hell yeah, brother.
Thanks again for being on, man.
Oh, I'm always on. I'm always here, brother.
He's here every day. He's behind the mic every day, behind the computer, pulling up data.
I look forward to doing this a lot more. This is going to be great.
All right, thanks, dude.
See ya.